whatever. I used to know the names of all the stars. Now I just know a few planets, like Mercury, Earth, and Mars. I used to know the name of every child. Back before I was born, back when I was safe and warm, back when I was flying in the sky. Now I have to go to school, learn it all again, get good grades, and try and remember when I used to know the names of all the stars. So that's the title track from one of our Kid Pan Alley albums, and it's a song I wrote with first graders. First graders. And like me, you're probably wondering, you know, how did first graders do something like that? I mean, how could they write something so profound and so beautiful, and how difficult it is for us as adults to do the same thing. The kids had been studying the planets in school, and that's what they wanted to write about. I just walk in and say, what do you want to write about? And so I said, okay, well, let's write about that. Who knows the names of all the planets? And the kid's hand shot up like that. I called on me and said, I used to know the names of all the stars. I mean the planets. And I said, wait, back up here. What a great title. I used to know the names of all the stars. When did you know it all? And he goes, oh, well, you know, back before I was born. And, oh, well, cool. Okay. And a girl said, yeah, I knew it all too, but now we have to go to school and learn it again. Live and learn, die and forget it all, I always say. So, what were those things we knew before we were born? And we wondered about that, and the list of wonder grew up on the board there as we wrote about all the things we wondered about. So we started brainstorming for a while. We wrote a section of lyric. And after we had that first section of lyric, I said, well, who can sing the first line? And the girl in the back goes, I used to know the names of all the stars. And I said, well, you know, a melody is like a walk in the mountains. And some of the notes go up, some of them go down, some of them go along level. And that's what a melody is. And so we started speaking the melody. I used to know the names of all the stars. I used to know the names of all the stars, and some kid sings, I used to know the names of all the stars, and everybody goes, oh yeah, that's it, and starts applauding, because we're paying attention to the way the natural melody, the natural rhythm of speech. And so I play it in a few different styles for the kids on the guitar, like I might go, okay, well, which one most sounds like what you're hearing? And I went, used to know the names of all the stars. Now I just know a few planets, like Mercury, Earth, and Mars. Maybe. Well, how about a blues? Oh, I used to know the names of all the stars. Now I just know a few planets, like Mercury, Earth, and Mars. Well, maybe not. And then I go, and I'll change keys here. Oh, I used to know the names of all the stars. Now I just know a few planets, like Mercury, Earth, and Pluto, I sing. And one of the kids says, wait a minute. You forgot the words. And that becomes the inspiration for the next verse. One girl shouts out, well, you know, Pluto's not a planet anymore. And another kid says, no, it's a dog. But my mistake becomes the inspiration for this next verse, which is, I used to know the words to all the songs. Now I only know the melodies, and I just hum along. I used to know the language of the birds, the robin and the blue jay. I always knew what they would say, the prettiest song that I've ever heard. Now I have to go to school, learn it all again, get good grades, and try and remember when I used to know the words to all the songs. So we work our way through it there. But let me back up a little bit and tell you about how Kid Pan Alley got started. Because it started right here in Rappahannock back in 1999. They were going to have an interdisciplinary residency at Rappahannock Elementary School. And my friend Sharon Wyrick was organizing it. And she was a choreographer, and there was a visual artist involved. And they asked me if I'd come in and do music for 3 weeks with the kids. And, I wasn't a kids artist, and I thought, well, I'm not interested in teaching them songs, but I'd be real interested in writing songs, because I'm interested in the creative, not the recreative process. And after all, I'd started writing songs when I was about 5 years old, and I figured, well, they're a little older than that, and they can probably handle it. Well, by the end of that first day, there were 6 brand new songs, and some of them were terrible. 1 or 2 were good, and there was one great one in there, and that was the beginning of Kid Pan Alley. And by the end of that residency, that 3-week residency, we had about 60 songs. And we had a performance, and all the parents kept going, oh, well, I really want a copy of that song. Oh, can you record that for me? And I said, no, I'm not a kids artist. I still had Trapezoid, and I was touring around with Julie doing her plays, and didn't want to kind of get myself into the box of being a children's artist. But then I had this kind of hillbilly brainstorm where I realized there are all these great musicians in Rappahannock County. And so I got all of them together and said, well, each of you record a song in your own style. And we had everything from a classical song with beats behind it done by the Mazel Children to a hip-hop song and just about everything in between. And that was the beginning of it. We called that album Tidal Wave, a Song. And that album spawned a tidal wave of songs all around the country. There are now about 2,500 Kid Pan Alley songs with about 35,000 children at this point. The other day, someone asked me if I had any children, and I started to say no, and then I said, no, I have like 35,000. And I get 200 more each week, and no, I don't have to send them to college or anything like that. It took me a while to come up with the name Kid Pan Alley, but it turned out to be the perfect name. Because Tin Pan Alley was the place in New York City where, from about the 1890s to the mid-1950s, where most of the most popular songwriters in America would go every day and write their songs in a place called the Brill Building. And there are people like Cole Porter and Irving Berlin, George Gershwin and Jerome Kern would bang out their songs on out-of-tune pianos. And if you walked down the alley behind it, it sounded like a bunch of people banging on tin pans. So they called it Tin Pan Alley. And so Kid Pan Alley was the obvious name, but it's also been a great name for us because it really allows us to have a lot of takeoffs on it. Like we have an intergenerational program that we do with senior citizens, and we call that one Bedpan Alley. Oh, I'm just kidding about that one. And then, if we're working in a Christian school, it can be Hymn Pan Alley. And, one of my students does something in Jewish nursing homes, and we've got Yid Pan Alley. We can modify it for whatever we need there. Well, you may be wondering why I think kids make the greatest co-writers. And there's a lot of reasons for it. One is they don't need a coffee break.